Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves is the final movie in the series, and other than star Rick Moranis, it loses all of the cast members of the previous entries. It's also made for TV, so while we're at it, let's shrink our expectations. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me is Tara.
Hello.
Can I ask, Tara, do you consider Neil Diamond to be raw sexual passion himself and personified?
Who doesn't?
Okay, I was just curious because it came up in this movie, and I was very curious. Welcome everyone. It's a science fiction movie podcast. We are here today to talk, of all things, about Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, just to finish off the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids trilogy. There was a TV show after this, which I do remember watching a fair bit of when I was a kid.
A Disneyland attraction.
I actually didn't know about that. I think there was... No, it wasn't on a DVD. I think it was just like, I saw like a segment play on like a movie channel at some point, just sort of advertising it at some point.
Eric Idle's in it.
So... Good to know, but we did obviously the first two movies, and before Tara's done with the ace and we move on to David,
before you replace me and not mention a word of it, like they do for Diane in this movie.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the recasting.
Before you silently recast me.
Joe, she looks so different that for a good couple of minutes before someone said her name, I was thinking, are you meant to be the same wife or is he remarried? Like I really wasn't sure. They
could not be more different from each other.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have blonde hair. Like, that's about it.
So here to talk about Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. We'll start spoiler-free as well. We'll give you a warning before we get to spoilers. This one does stick out, though, because we don't tend to do a lot of non-theatrical movies. Every so often, though. In fact, not too long ago, we did Threads, which was a TV movie, and this is actually also a TV movie. I assume for the Disney Channel, since Disney Channel did a lot of that sort of thing in the 90s.
I thought this one was like made for VHS.
IMDb to me says TV movie, so I mean I'm sure it came out in VHS as well, but I imagine this was the time period where everything that was directed video was also made with the intention of, no, we can play this every week on the Disney Channel. You know, this, Brink, Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, that's all the ones I remember. But there was a lot of them.
I didn't have the Disney Channel at this time. I'm still in Canada.
I never had it for like ever, or you know what I mean. Like, but I tended to have it for little pockets of time where I'd get it for like 3 months because it was cheap when you had the sports channels. So if the football season was in, I would get the movie channels along with the Disney Channel. But when the sports season wasn't on, I wouldn't get those things, which frankly in hindsight is pretty shitty. Why do I have to do without just because your stupid sports game isn't on?
Yeah. I mean,
Bullshit.
TV is everything when you're a kid.
Absolutely. That's all I cared about. When I was 8 years old when this came out, that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So
how could I get more TV?
What's interesting then is that this movie, well, it is presented in HD, depending on where you watch it now, if you're on Disney Plus or whatever. It is actually still 4:3. I was curious about that before I started it. Like, is this going to be... Because there's other... I mean, hell, me and Tim have been doing the Subspecies movies on Screams, and that was a direct-to-video franchise, but the remastered versions of the first 3 are in widescreen. Like, they did shoot it that way. It's sort of future-proofing it, effectively.
Well, that's a Full Moon franchise, and Full Moon has been doing a lot of remasters for their app.
Well, no. Subspecies, much like Trancers, the first 3 have remasters, and then you get to the 4th one, and all of a sudden you're in shitty 4:3 VHS-looking land.
Not on the app. The app has HD versions now.
Of what? Trancers?
Of Trancers 4 through 6.
Oh, well, I've been using the app. I've just not looked at those because I've had no need to. I've been watching Subspecies, as previously mentioned.
I think all the Evil Bong ones too, because that was my test, because I wasn't sure, because I had seen the first Evil Bong movie, and it was like watching something through, I don't know, like a flip book. Like, it was so low quality. And but I watched it on the app, and I was like, oh, this looks much, much better. I mean, it's still Evil Bong. How good can you get? But like, at least it looked a lot better than the first time I watched it. It's
sad that you've watched that more than once, but we'll move on. we'll move on.
I've watched more than one of the series too. Anyway,
I don't want us to discuss it. We've got more important things to discuss. We have, and the thing is that this being a TV movie, right? It's a bit shorter. Clearly, it was made to fit into what I imagine was like a 90-minute time slot on the Disney Channel, because it's like 72 minutes. So I suspect like it's not.
Seems about right.
Yeah, they don't have as many ads on the Disney Channel because it was a premium channel, but they did have some. So maybe not during the movie, but they would want like a chunk at the end, or like interstitial stuff. So it's about 72 minutes long, and the first thing that I noticed watching the movie, before we get to like our general thoughts on it, is that the first two movies both had like these long animated intros for the titles, where you get like cartoons of either, in the first movie it was like little kids running around, areas that were in the movie. In the second movie, it was all these cartoons of the giant baby doing stuff and being, not stuff that was going to be in the movie later, but just sort of general fun ideas that kind of went along with it.
Yeah, a thing that is pretty memorable from those two films too.
Yeah,
because they're fun to watch.
Whereas here, there's not even like a title sequence; they just come up as the movie starts, and so as the scenes are playing out, you get the titles coming up. So that's just, it's a cheaper movie, right? And it feels cheaper than the first two. It is not a big theatrical release. I mean, for a TV movie, I do think it, effects wise, it does all right. For a 1997 TV movie, it does what it needs to do. It
Yeah, I mean it does, but like there's barely anything practical in this. It's all green screen.
Oh yeah.
And it suffers for it.
Their technique here is to just make everything really out of focus, so it looks like they're tiny and everything else is too big to be in focus. So
brilliant.
We'll talk about all that. But anyway, I did see this at least once, probably not long after it came out, because I was a fan of the first two movies as a kid. When this was on TV, or maybe I rented it. I don't know like how I got to see it, but I definitely remember having it in tape as a kid. I probably watched it a couple times, but not enough that like I knew it really well like the other movies. So for me, watching it this time, it was a really weird, like, not nostalgia, that's not quite the right word, but every so often there'd be a line or someone would do something or say something in a certain way, and it would be like a weird like deja vu of like, oh no, I think I remember them delivering that line that way, right?
Yep. I know every line that it is too, because of the trailer for the movie. Because I never saw this,
maybe.
But they would put this trailer in front of like the animated VHS, the clamshell ones that came out. And because I didn't want to bother with remotes or going to fast forward stuff, I just like, well, let the trailers play out. And they played this one on like everything, I think, for a little while. Like, Honey, we Shrunk Ourselves, because there are certain line deliveries from the uncle and from the Rick Moranis that I'm just like, God, I know I've heard that line, specifically that line, 1,000 times, but I've not seen this movie before.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't think it's that's true for me though, because I did see the movie, and I mean maybe I saw the trailer as well, but I don't know if I did.
I'm sure they play them all over like the Disney Channel.
Probably,
if you were watching it for 3 months straight.
Yeah, no, I mean it's entirely possible I did see it as well, but I know I saw the movie, and I knew like one of the vivid things I remembered was like the auntie critiquing the teenage boy's fingernails in the kitchen for whatever reason. That memory, and also the kid needs potassium, get him some bananas, was like something I remembered from this movie, and not a lot else.
Okay, we have different memories that are being triggered then.
Yeah. So anywho, what did you think of Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves?
It's a sad movie. I don't like it. It's a sad sequel. Even like the idea of recasting Diane, like this motherly character that she seems like maybe the least important, or the least, I don't know, important in the grand scheme of things, but she was pretty important in the first one, and then in the second one, like, the mother baby relationship was pretty strong in that. So like, just not having her there, her voice, her face already feels like this isn't worth my time anymore, because it's not consistent.
Yeah. It's the one, honestly, it wouldn't necessarily make the movie like this worthwhile like third movie or anything, but I think having the real wife back would, at the very least make it feel like, okay, you know what, it's worth it just to see those two play off each other again. Having this other woman instead, especially when she tries to do some of the deliveries the same way the other actress did, or, you know, not to spoil anything, but the whole fainting when she realizes someone's been shrunk or blown up happens again, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's not you though. Like, this is not the same woman fainting the same way, so the joke just feels hot. You're just reminding me it's not her.
Yeah, it's very odd, and it's like he calls her by her name, and like she says my children, and she talks about like Nick and Adam and the girl whose name
Amy.
is Amy. Thank you. And like they're her kids, and I'm like, they're not your kids. Who are you?
And
what happened to Diane? Like, did Wayne Szalinski invent a thing that could just erase people's memories and be like, this has always been my wife? Look how hot she is.
I don't know. Well, maybe I don't know. There's a Diane and Sam from Cheers joke in here somewhere. I'm trying to find it, and I just can't. It's not happening.
Dang.
But I think, like, yeah, because Nick and Amy aren't there, and it's a shame they're not there either. But at least, like, okay, I understand why they're not around. You know, they've left. They're off doing their own thing. They're adults now.
Adam was already like a pretty big age gap between them. Like, Amy was off in college, right, in the first one, and I think the second one. In the second one, and like Nick was talking about college, so like.
Yeah, he was in high school, and they specifically mentioned this has been 8 years. It wasn't 8 years later when it came out, but they say it's for the sake of the movie's timeline. This is 8 years later, so he was 2 in the first or the second movie, and he's 10 now in this movie. That's the sequence of events. So we'll get into everything. Obviously, the main gist of the premise is that, you know, they shrink. Like it's Wayne and his wife Diane, and also Wayne's brother. Diane. Wayne's brother, who we never heard about. We didn't know he had a brother in those first 2 movies, but all of a sudden he's got a brother, and then his wife are the other 2 people who get shrunk. So we have 4 adults who get shrunk. And do you know what the sad part of the premise is that I actually think is really good, but is wasted on this cheaper direct-to-TV movie, is that having Wayne himself be shrunk and watching him as a scientist try and figure out solutions to things actually sounds like a good idea. Like, now it's not the kids.
And he's in his house, full of inventions. Like, they should have used that more.
There was definitely potential in the idea, but unfortunately it's just and that said though, I don't think I'm as like, I don't think it's good. I think it's a very like lower stakes, lower quality TV movie. I'm not as mad at it as you. I don't think. I think I'm just kind of.
I really don't like it because it's also like the solutions they come up with. Even if I was a kid, I would be like, this is dumb. Like, you can't do that, or this doesn't make sense. Like, things don't. They're not clever, you know. They're just like, wouldn't it be fun if a person was inside this thing and we could watch them do this? And like,
they'd be
you're
dead.
In Wayne Szalinski's house. Like, yeah, don't do this stupid stuff where they be dead. Like, do some fantastical thing, you know?
Yeah, so to run down the cast here a little bit. So we obviously got Rick Moranis, which this was actually his last major role, was this movie, sadly, before he called it quits for a long time. Diane's played by Eve Gordon, who I looked up just to see if because she looked kind of familiar. She's done like bit parts here or there in a bunch of TV shows.
I looked her up too because I wanted to see, is she like the wife of Stuart Gordon or something? who's linked to this franchise?
Yeah, but like he's probably bitter about this franchise, so I think like he'd probably like, no wife of mine is.
He'd be like, okay, you can towards that. You can make it, but like, can you cast my wife in this? Cast her. We'll make her one of the leads.
We then have the brother Stuart, or he's Stuart Pankin is the actor. Gordon Szalinski is the brother's name. So he's new here. He's another character actor you've probably seen in some things. I looked him up. He's been in a few things you may have seen. I think he was in like was it Basic Instinct? He was a cop in that. He was the sheriff in something else. Like, you know, he pops up from time to time, so you might know his face. And likewise, his wife Patty, played by Robin Bartlett, you've probably seen her in things as well.
She looked very familiar.
Yeah, she's just one of those actors who pops up in small roles in a lot of things, especially on TV. So you've got that, but we have a couple of more notable surprises in the kids.
Yeah.
So, first things first. So we got Adam, who's Wayne and Diane's kid, who was the baby in the second movie. He's 10. He's the main kid. And then you've got two other kids. You got his cousins, who are the other, pair's children. So Gordon and Patty's kids. We have the younger boy who, what's his name? Oh, he's not next on the list. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it Vincent?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Vincent might be the name of the
cousin.
other boys.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's three other boys. I know it's not Ricky King. Ricky King was definitely the pretty boy that the other one was into, but anyway.
He's the Jonathan Taylor Thomas of it.
Yeah. But the older sister, Zelensky, Jenny, is played notably by Allison Mack, who has a troubled future ahead of her after this. Obviously, if she was on Smallville and that was successful for what it was for 10 years, that's all fine. But then she was a high-ranking member in a sex cult that did a lot of really bad things. So I don't want to get into it.
Baby.
I don't want to get into it. I just, worth pointing out that that's a little awkward and uncomfortable.
Have you been rewatching Smallville?
I have, yes.
So you've been seeing her already. You were primed for this.
I am used to. It's just so funny though, because last week, the episode of Deep Space Nine that me and Connor did in the last week had John Glover in it, and John Glover's in Smallville, and now Allison Mack, who's in Smallville, has popped up in this. I just feel like the actors of Smallville are starting to pierce out into everything else I'm watching. It's really distressing.
I know. It's this mid-90s time, when they're all just babies.
Yeah. Also, one of Jenny's friends is a young Mila Kunis as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of wild.
I would say super young, but I'm pretty sure she was like 14 when she started that 70s show, so she can't be that much younger here.
It was something like that, yeah. I don't know if it was quite 14, but she was definitely under consent age, because there's a lot of stories about that show and how young she was and how much she was already flirting with certain people and whatnot. Who also, not as bad as being high-ranking in a sex slave cult, but recently did come under a bit of fire for sending a letter to a judge to give her co-star some leniency when he was convicted of rape.
He was always nice to her.
Jesus Christ.
Except for some of the stories that she tells were really not nice.
So yeah, screw all the victims then, just because he was nice to you. Jesus.
The worst is that it's after he was convicted. Like, I could maybe see, like, this
Before,
is our...
Yeah.
We don't know everything. No one was there, like, except for the people involved. Like, sure, it's a bad look. Maybe just, help our friend out. But, like, after convicted, like, ugh. Come on, guys.
So,
it's time to let your friend go.
Yeah, so it was just there was a wild feeling to watching this where they're both so young. Like, Allison Mack and Mila Kunis are both so young in this. So you're like...
Yeah, they're just babies.
Right now, you're innocent. But I know you're not going to stay innocent, especially Allison Mack. So it's a very weird feeling to be like, this is before you went down a path, and that's just, I don't know, it felt weird. It felt weird to watch. So yeah, that's all the notable cast. There's some other, like, because what age is Allison Mack's character meant to be in this? Like 14, something like that. It's definitely early to mid teens. It's not late teens. This is definitely sort of. Maybe just in high school, but probably upper middle school.
I'm getting really bad at this. I had to go to a high school for work the other day, and everybody looked like babies. And then I went to a university yesterday for work, and everyone there looked like babies. I'm like, oh no, it's happening. I can't see it anymore. I can only see, like, around my age and up.
Oh no.
Everyone looks too young to me now.
Yeah, well,
Super
I mean,
young.
Adam and I think the other cousin are meant to be about 10, so I'm assuming she's like 13, 14, maybe 15
I
at a
would say
push. But she's in, like, maybe first kiss territory, which feels like 13, 14, give or take. So
yeah.
I
literally was just like, well, when was mine? I'm like, yep, checks out.
Good to know. So, yeah. So the main conceit of this movie is that the parents are shrunk and the kids don't know they're shrunk. The kids just think they've been left alone for the weekend and they're going to use the house as they see fit. And that's the movie. It's the parents trying to get the kids to be aware that they're there and that they're shrunk, and that's the whole concept. So we'll get into all the spoilers and stuff in a second. Is there anything you want to talk about before we get to spoilers that we've not touched on?
No.
Okay, well, in that case,
I really thought hard.
we could hear it.
Crickets.
So, spoilers then, if you happen to care for Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, they will now commence. This 1997
Let
movie.
the spoilers begin.
Yes. Is there anything worth spoiling? That's what I'm really thinking about. I mean, we're going to go through the movie, obviously, but I'll just try to think.
The bubbles are stupid.
Bubbles are stupid. The race car is kind of stupid.
The race car I can get behind a little bit, but like the way it ends is dumb, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think
the daddy long leg thing is stupid.
I know it's like a weird thing to nitpick, but like a toy car does not actually have room for legs because it doesn't intend to ever sit anyone in it. Right? Maybe a bigger one because maybe you might put action figures in it, but a little tiny Hot Wheels car? No, there's no room there.
If you had like I guess it was probably a Hot Wheel thing.
No,
but if you have like the Matchbox ones, like they're made to be kind of like to scale.
Yeah. It literally it said there was the Hot Wheels branding on the track,
yeah,
so definitely Hot Wheels. So
come on, they sold that toy after, so we should be able to find it and check.
True. It didn't even seem like something made for the movie. It seems like just they picked a Hot Wheels toy and said, "We'll make an adult-sized model of that so we can shoot this scene." He also had some Game Boy games just around his floor because kid.
Which ones did he have? I didn't see that.
Oh, I don't know because they were being used to prop up some of the tracks, so I could just see the side that said Game Boy sticking out. I couldn't see what the games were.
Oh, okay.
So, but he's got a Game Boy somewhere. That's something I noticed. I was hoping going to break out a PS1 and we're going to get some real nostalgia. Watch them play some Crash Bandicoot 1 or something.
Oh yeah, because everybody had a PlayStation 1. Everybody had a Nintendo.
Well, no, hold on a second. No. I'm not accepting that tone because everyone did have a PlayStation 1 and the N64 was the niche one. The generation before everyone had a Nintendo. PlayStation...
Yeah. The generation that is in this film.
Yes, everyone had a PlayStation. It's 1997. It's 1990. The PS one outsold the Nintendo. Nintendo 64 wasn't even out yet. I don't think, was it? No, it came out in 96. It was out. But
yeah, it was.
No, the N64 undersold. People know this.
Yeah, well, everybody had Nintendos. This is the Game Boy that we're looking at here.
Yeah, handheld. Everyone had a Game Boy. Yes, I'm not disputing that.
Everyone had a PlayStation 2. I'll grant you that.
Everyone had a PS1 and a PS2. It was the PS3 where they nosedived and the Xbox came in and swept up the receipts, if you will.
Yeah. They had some good games.
N64 didn't do well, nor did the GameCube. The Wii did well, Wii U did terribly, Switch did amazing. That's the lineage of the Nintendo graph. And we'll see if the Switch 2 does well. I may actually get one. I've been itching to give it a try.
I don't know. It's kind of I'll believe it when I see it.
I was tempted to get a Switch, and then I realized, no, the new one's out next year. I won't bother. It's a waste of time now. I'll get.
You don't know that though. You don't know.
We know.
Come on, they've been saying that for the last 3 years.
No, Nintendo haven't. Nintendo have been tight-lipped. Whereas in the last week, Nintendo were like, yes, we're going to take for the first time ever in Nintendo's history, your online account's going to carry forward to if we do a next system. What do you mean if? There's no if. You're doing a next system. Don't pretend otherwise, Nintendo. Right? Doug Bowser, you prick. I know what's in your head.
What a great name for a Nintendo employee.
Yeah, I have a hard time, but I feel like he was probably relatively qualified, but I'm convinced there was 5 other people who were more qualified, but they saw the name Bowser on that bit of paper and went, him.
Yeah.
He's the one.
I don't know what ship he was on. It wasn't the Enterprise, but there was a James T. Kirk in the Navy when I was in the Navy. Like, that man is destined for greatness. He couldn't go into the army. He had to pick the Navy, right?
I suppose that's true. Anyway, you can tell we don't have much to say about how we Shrunk the Kids because we're talking about Nintendo. I hear Mario Wonder's great.
It's very good.
I've never played more than 10 minutes of a 2D Mario game. I am really not the one to judge. So.
They're very fun.
I believe you. All right. So, where do we begin? There's a bit... Oh, yeah, can we talk about the Green Lantern project for a minute? Because I have thoughts.
Are you talking about when he goes to his Zelensky Incorporated building?
Zelensky's his own lab now. He's got his own company. And he's bad at giving presentations, but his brother's there working with him, and he handles all that. It's all fine. But, so, when I said Green Lantern project, I imagine some of the audience know the DC Comics property Green Lantern and thought, oh, Peter's going even more off topic. No, I'm not. They call something in this the Green Lantern project, which is they're developing something that like road workers and people who are working at night on the road can drink that'll make their skin glow green.
There's a thing like this in the new Zelda game because there's so much cave exploration. So you could drink something that makes you glow.
I'm starting to regret bringing up Nintendo. I've awoken something apparently in Tara.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But so there's a whole joke here where it's like, oh, we figured out how to do it. The problem is it doesn't spread around the body, and they both take a sip of this stuff and then they lift up their shirts and their stomachs are green glowing, but the rest of their body isn't. And then Wayne's like, mix it with calcium, that'll get it in all the right channels.
Yeah, when Wayne started talking about like how things would work inside the body, there was a moment where I went, is this set up? Like, is this foreshadowing? Are we going to get a Fantastic Voyage in this? Or some part of it? We don't. But, like, it could have been cool.
I think that's part of the problem is that this entire part isn't set up for anything. Obviously, they get a phone, they get, like, tickets to go to something, and they leave an answering machine message. And because he phones his wife. So the whole setup at the start of the movie is that the two wives are going to go on a long weekend vacation. And they're looking forward to it, and the two dads are meant to look after the kids all in the one house, right? The Wayne Zelensky house. Okay, fine. But Wayne's forgotten they're supposed to do this, so when they're given this opportunity to go to something else, I don't even remember what it was, the tickets to something tonight. And he's like, oh yeah, I don't think we're doing anything this weekend. And then Diane gets the helmet phone thing on, and she's like, no, Wayne, we're going on this vacation. We need this. We need this. Which actually,
yeah, she starts like yelling like super loud. I don't remember that being a Diane thing.
No, she yells a bit later on. Yeah, I'll get to that because I want to set up why she yells later on. The entire inciting incident, the MacGuffin that starts this whole movie off,
dumb.
The Tiki statue. That's it. That's the premise of this entire movie. Is that Wayne apparently, when he started being successful as a scientist, he bought a Tiki statue, which is like a weather totem or something. So he thanks it for the nice weather they're having or some shit like that. And Diane hates it, right? She's annoyed that she can't at least put her coat on it. And he's like, no, it's not a coat rack. It's a Tiki. It's a sacred. You don't do anything. And she demands that when she go off on her weekend vacation, she makes a bunch of rules for the kids, and she's like, Wayne, get rid of the Tiki. That better not be here when I get back. So Wayne gets his brother to help him carry it up to the attic, which, by the way, I thought it was really strange that this attic was clearly based to look identical as best it could on the budget to the attic in the original movie, which is stupid because this is definitely not the same house as the attic in the original movie.
Well, they moved in the second movie because they had to get closer to Vegas.
Yeah. And I think they moved again, but they're not back where they were before. It's a different house. So this idea that we're going to have the exact same layout in the attic felt weird to me. It was like, you're forcing this when it's actually just raising more questions. Like, oh, he had to have it set up the exact same way. And the shrink ray looks a bit cheaper, of course. Everything looks a bit cheaper. But yes, the whole thing here is that Wayne, despite the fact that the FTA has banned him from ever turning the shrink ray on again. In fact, it's gone into the Smithsonian as like a piece for the Smithsonian, right? A museum. Mm-hmm. And he's decided to literally because I'm pretty sure if the FTA have a ruling and then you break it, isn't that a federal crime?
Probably.
It sounds like it would be to
I
me.
don't know these rules because I mean, I don't even know what the FTA is.
FTA approve, like, I mean, I'm not even American, but I know that the FTA have to approve a lot of new drugs and things like that if they're going to be sold. And
That's FDA.
that's the FDA. Oh,
Food and Drug Administration. What the hell is FTA? I don't know. But they didn't say FDA in the movie.
they definitely said FTA, and I just assumed it was the same thing I've always heard. And you're right.
Transportation.
FTA.
Technology?
America. What is FTA? Free trade agreements. Can't be that. Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, maybe. I don't think so. Whatever. Maybe it's made up.
Maybe they did see FDA, but that doesn't even make sense, though, does it?
It does not.
I don't know. That's weird. Okay, whatever. Regardless, and not only did they say that though, every time it's mentioned, and this was fine enough when because the brother character Gordon, he says, "Hey, there was a joint committee of the FTA and your wife that you would never use this again," and I'm like, okay, that's a funny line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The idea that the wife teamed up with a government body and said, "No, you can never turn this on again," is funny. But the fact that she later on, when she walks in and she's like saying you used that, even though there was a joint committee of myself and the FTA, I was like, no, see, now it's not funny. Now it's weird that you're saying it the exact same way. Is because before I thought that the brother was making effectively a joke. He was saying, your wife will kill you if you use that again, plus the FTA told you not to. And he's referring to it in a funny way by saying there's a joint committee. But then she said it as well, and I thought, wait, are you actually telling me there was a joint committee between a government body and your wife?
Yes. And I mean, it was okay when she said it to her sister-in-law, who's like, oh, it sounds like the machine's running. And she's like, no, like you can't, he's literally not allowed to do it or he'll be arrested or something. Like that would be fine, you know? So that's the confirmation that we need.
And not only does he do this just to hide a Tiki thing,
but unfortunately, they stored their billiards equipment right above it.
Well, this is what gets me. Not only does the pool ball is the thing that comes down, because that's the thing. They shrink the Tiki thing, and the two guys go over, get the magnifying glasses out just to sort of confirm they've done it all right. And then, obviously, it starts powering up again. Right? The machine starts powering up, and Gordon's like, hey, it sounds like the machine's powering up again. And Wayne's like, don't worry, there's no one else in the house to press it. And at this point, when the ball falls down and eventually hits the button, I realized that the reason why they've added these extra gold pipes is not for no other reason than that these carry the ball in like a little track round to the button. And I thought, this is bullshit. This is just straight up bullshit.
I mean, it's fine for like a kids movie thing, but it is a little bit like when you're an adult watching it, it's like, well, that's awfully convenient, but also like, why would you store billiard balls above a thing anyway? And then, like, if you're Wayne Szalinski and you've accidentally used this equipment on people too many times, this needs to like have extra safety precautions. And if it's just a giant button that needs to be pressed, like maybe stop and get off of the mat that has the square on where all the shrink ray will be. Like, there's just so many obvious things that as an adult you'd be like, well, this is really stupid. Let's keep going.
To give it a slight amount of credit, it's only the button to be pressed because he already has his key in and turned. It's because he's an idiot and leaves it all turned on when they go to check the thing. It seemed like to turn it all on and get it going from the start, he had to put in a key, turn it, flip some switch. You know, there was a lot to set it up. But once it was set up,
shaking hands with danger. Like if you had like a I don't know, like a backhoe or something, or like a giant piece of machinery that's really expensive and can be really dangerous, but slow. You know, there's a lot of things like you really have to not pay attention to get hurt. But when people get hurt, they like lose an arm or something, you know? So you take extra measures. You don't take chances. You're just like, you know, we have these checkout or whatever they're called, like the tag out forms and stuff for a reason. We go through people to verify things for a reason. This is dangerous equipment, Wayne Szalinski, your equipment. You almost killed your kids.
Twice.
All of them.
So, before they go up, though, to get rid of the kids, and this really annoyed me, actually. So, you've got 14-year-old Allison Mack, you've got 10-year-old Adam, and then 10-year-old...
Vinny? Maybe? Maybe Vinny?
Whatever his name was. Right? And Wayne says, hey, I'm going to help you make a model of, like, molecules out of food or something. I need toothpicks, though. How much do they cost these days? $10 a banana? Something like that? And like, Allison Mack lies about it, and he says, here's $10. If there's any change, get yourself some snacks, right? And obviously, we know they're lying about the price of the toothpicks, and the toothpicks are probably going to be like, cents, right? And then the rest of it's for their snacks. And he sends them to the store to get rid of them so they can go and hide the Tiki machine and shrink it. And then that's when all this happens. The two things that bug me here is, one, when the kids leave, he turns around and says, oh, that was just a ruse to get them to leave. And I'm like, then why didn't you just say, here's some money, go get yourself some snacks?
Go get some snacks.
Like, you could have just said that. But for some reason, maybe he's like playing through like 4D chess, and he's thinking, I'll make the kids think they've outsmarted me, and that'll make them not suspect a thing. But they wouldn't suspect a thing, even if you just were nice and said, here's $10, go get some snacks. I don't know.
Mom's not here, Like, yeah. Dad's the cool parent. Go get some snacks. That's cool. Great. I loved it when it was just dad, because that means we got like really good food for dinner. Like, nothing was made, everything was bought.
Yeah.
We're definitely getting pizza.
It was a weird step that just didn't need to be taken, and I thought that was odd. But then what stuck out to me more so, and I realised that there's been some inflation since 1997, right? I understand that. But these kids come back with 2 full grocery bags, and they've all got like drinks in their hands, that like slushies or something. And this really stuck out because, just a little sneak into the future for some people. We're actually recording some December episodes of Collector's Cut right now, and we did Home Alone.
Behind the scenes.
There's a scene in Home Alone where he goes shopping on his own, and he goes up to the counter, and he's got a trolley full of stuff, right? He's got 2 full big bags worth, and the whole thing only comes to like $19. And like, me and David were commenting on how depressing it is, how cheap that would be like at least 3 times the price, in present day for what he had at his cart. But
if I leave the grocery store with like only spending $60, I'm like, score.
Yeah, but this is a little bit later, but like, even with inflation in mind, I still don't believe that they had everything they had in these 2 bags and all those drinks. Like, because even in the mid to late 90s, like a stylized like slushy or something like that you pay for as like a sort of treat, like that'd still be a couple dollars, right? Like that's not like a can of soda. That you're paying a premium effectively for that.
I don't remember. I didn't really get any slushies when I was a kid, but
admittedly,
I want to say like the movie theaters, like I definitely didn't get them because it was like at least $2 more.
Yeah, they were definitely
for the
more.
ices.
Yeah. I don't know. I had a hard time believing that the $10 spread that much. And what's funny is that Diane left $40 pinned to the board saying, oh, that'll be enough for pizza. And I'm like, oh, yeah, for a couple of pizzas for, 2 dads and 3 kids. Yeah, sure. Right. And when they think the parents are gone, because they hear the answering machine message from the dad, which is actually out of date. This was like from before they knew they had to babysit the kids, but it said, hey, we're leaving. And the mums are already gone. And they're like, oh shit, we've got the house to ourselves. Allison Mack's like, I'm going to invite over my friends and have a party. Don't tell parents, and you two can do whatever you want. And she grabs the $40 and says, I'm going to go shopping. And I went, wait a minute, that's their dinner too. That's unfair. They want pizza.
Yes.
At least I bet they do anyway. I'd want the pizza. I'd be upset.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, moms are gone. Let's get pizza.
Yeah, so that's the setup of the movie. That's the first act, I guess. The moms come back because the younger cousin, he has a condition. He takes medication every day.
Or he gets paralysis.
Let's not try and medically work out what he's got. He's got a potassium deficiency at the very least. So they come back because they forgot to leave his medication. So she rushes in and puts it on the kitchen counter. which no one ever actually finds, because later on they have to use bananas to like make him snap out of his potential coma that he's got coming in.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that. Okay, so Diane is like, I have to go on vacation. She's yelling at her husband. This is the only thing that she needs, the only thing that she wants. And even when the subject of like we got to go back and drop off the meds comes up, or my kid might die, she still has a moment where she's like, yeah, okay, let's go. Like, you know, like she still is really frustrated. And then when she gets there and they drop off the meds, it's not like, okay, let's go. It's like, hey, let's use this opportunity to go scare our husbands. And it's like, well, no, like you're obsessed with this vacation. Surely if this was consistent, you would want to leave as soon as possible.
Yeah, she says, let's go see what they get up to as soon as they think we're gone. And I'm not sure what they were expecting.
That should have been the other wife. That should have been the other wife, you know, saying like, hey, let's go do this. And she's like, fine, you know, or something like.
But no,
the vacation is the thing that matters the most.
They run up to the attic. They end up getting zapped as well. And then obviously she's not very pleased when she finds out she's shrunk. She faints.
Oh yeah.
And sits back up.
Well,
I was about to say, she sits back up and she notices the Tiki eventually, and she's like, oh, this was you think you're so smart, don't you, Wayne? You shrunk down the Tiki to think I wouldn't notice. And then she yells at the top of her lungs, I noticed! And I just wanted to mention that.
But also, like, why does it matter? If it's like a 1/4 inch tall, like, it's not something you ever have to deal with. You'll probably end up sweeping it up on accident while dusting one day.
Wayne said he was going to put it in his pocket and keep it around with him because he likes it. And I thought, obviously she has a problem with him using the machine for the reasons that we've
but why
mentioned.
would that be an issue then?
But now that it's already small, though, yeah, like, why would it matter that it's in his pocket?
It's basically gone.
I mean, I guess it's because he had to use the machine, and that's breaking a huge rule that was established.
But like the Tiki thing, why is she upset about that?
Like I feel
like low priority.
I feel like she was on the verge of saying, why couldn't you just have an affair? But instead you tried to deceive me with this Tiki.
The thing I was gonna say that I actually did kind of like was when the dads got shrunk. Because they're looking through the magnifying glass trying to find the Tiki. And then you get like a POV shot of their point of view specifically, and all of a sudden the Tiki gets bigger and they're like, oh, it didn't work. And I liked that little detail of like, oh, you get like the POV of them being shrunk.
Because then they turn around and they're like, oh shit, we're small. It does beg the question though, does Wayne think this is normal, that it worked for like a 30 seconds and then it got big again? Is that something that's happened before to some of his test subjects?
Well, he did alter his shrink ray, so
true.
So yeah, there was that I enjoyed, but it again, it's not very consistent because when the wives get hit with the shrink ray, they like, whoa, like they feel it or something, like when they get hit, because there's like a flailing that happens.
Like it's fine that it doesn't look the same because it's a different perspective. We're looking at them instead of looking through their eyes. But you're right. They do this sort of hand wavy thing, like they're like going down like a water
they've been struck
chute.
by something. Yeah.
But the guys didn't feel it, and I'm like, what is this? Just because they're men and they're tough, and the wives are weak women, and they'll feel it.
I just want a little consistency in my kids' movie.
Well, that's the thing. Like people hand wave stuff this away, say, "Oh, it's a kids' movie. It doesn't matter." But here's the thing: the movies work better for kids when it obeys its own rules because the kids can follow the logic. When it doesn't follow logic, it is just silly, and the kids won't like it as much. Like it still matters to the kids. They may not be
fool kids.
They may not be able to articulate why it's not working. They might not be able to articulate what's wrong with it, but they'll not like it as much. Like because I didn't when it came to stuff like this as a kid. Like I definitely didn't like it as much. So it's definitely worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So I mean, from here, Allison Mack invites her friends over, who bring a bubble machine as well as more snacks.
I mean, if I had like friends come over and one of them brought a bubble machine when I was 12, I would have been like rocking. This is gonna be a good day.
I'm not mad that they brought a bubble machine. I think what's quite interesting about this is that the two boys got up to some mischief on their own for a bit, where they they've got like a model volcano, and they use like a balloon to have a chili volcano, so that it lands on their sausage men, and then they eat the sausage covered in chili. I was like, okay, this feels very elaborate. I guess this is them showing that the kid of Wayne Zielinski who knows how to do shit like this, but using it for a really kiddie thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Science,
I mean,
I guess.
yeah, it was fine. It seems a little bit like, I guess kids like playing with food, right? So I guess it makes sense.
I feel like the point of it more than anything was for Allison Mack to come in and act more grown up and say, look at this mess, like you're cleaning this up. To like sort of indicate that she was going to be a little bit more mature throughout the movie. Which, you know, becomes a thing. What's interesting to me though is that, and this did actually feel kind of oddly like real to me, bizarre, and I'm not complimenting the writing that much, but so the two boys like are like not thrilled that there's like 4 or 5 girls coming over to hang out, right? And Alison Mack's like, hey, you're going to serve us drinks, like it's actually just, you know, Gatorade, but we're going to pretend it's champagne so you can bring it out in a tray. And they're like, piss off. You don't rule us. And then Mila Kunis shows up, and Adam's like got a crush like instantly, and he's like, you know, on second thoughts, we'll be your slaves. Like we're good with that. So he awkwardly tries to interact a couple times, and it doesn't look great at first. But then as the night is going on, it seems like they're actually getting along with the girls quite well. They're doing it like, you know, the brother's doing the impressions, they're joking around, and it seems like bizarrely like the two boys are getting on well with all of her friends. You know, I'm not saying they're hitting it off and like he's got a chance with the girl who's 3 or 4 years older at this age, but you know, it seems like pleasant enough vibes wise. And then the other boys come in who are the girl's age, and all of a sudden they're treated like dweebs and young, and the girls start laughing at them, and it's like, oh, this is actually really sad because everything was all fine and nice, and now they're going to have trust issues their entire life because all of them have just turned their backs on them immediately. So
now they're going to go on some forums.
Hey,
no, it checks out. Like, because I had an older and younger sibling growing up.
Yes.
And we, you know, when we had cousins, when I used to live in the same country as them, they would come over, and you know, you would get kind of separated by age.
Yeah.
And you would just stick to that age. And it, you know, when everybody was like, when there wasn't that many people around and it was already a mishmash, like, yeah, we're all the kids, you know, we all got along and we could all get along and have fun. But then once someone else comes in and, you know, folds their arms like, oh, that's for babies or something, you know, then all of a sudden there's cliques. It just happens naturally, and it becomes annoying, and now you can't play with them anymore, and you just want to play Legos.
So, yeah, that was fine, because they dare Alison Mack to phone this guy she thinks is cute and tell him he's cute, which she does, and then he just takes it upon himself to show up with 2 other friends to this quote-unquote party. Yes.
He's Mr. Cool.
I thought this guy was so lame anymore. Maybe it's the 90s haircut, but
it's the haircut. Yeah.
He looked like he wanted to be in the Backstreet Boys, and I'm like, nah, dude. Like, you're trying so hard.
It's that bowl cut. It's that Jonathan Taylor Thomas look. Like, that every boy had it.
Joe is so funny is that in a weird way, it's actually kind of progressive. Like, because later on when he takes Alison Mack out of the kitchen and he's talking nice to her, but then quickly goes in for a kiss at one point, the way she reacts in some ways is very progressive, but at the same time, because this is a Disney Channel movie, it feels like the exact dialogue she has is too, like, thought out. It's, like, too specific and messagey, so it doesn't sound natural. It's nice. What she's saying is good. She's saying, hey, you didn't ask me, and maybe this, blah, 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 but you forced it on me. I'm like, the messaging here is solid, but the problem is it sounds like an infomercial for kids. This is like there's a lesson on a bit of paper that she's been told to read about consent, and it felt a bit weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a thing that you can probably hand wave for it being a kids movie.
Sure. And, yeah, that's fair.
Like, it's at least the mom's there and like she's proud of her, so you know, it's a sweet message and stuff like that. And even the cool boy at school who's going to give her a kiss is like, you know, she's not ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they didn't have her swear or anything, but it felt like when it cut to the mum when she's tiny watching this, she's like, "Get effed, Ricky," and like fist pumping.
And then also it's like it is Allison Mack that you're watching, so it's
That is a weird wrinkle on this. You're given, consent and her is a kind of an interesting pair, shall we say.
Yes.
Anyway.
Like, you didn't even tattoo me first. Or brand. I think they got branded.
It was branded, yeah, not tattoo.
Yeah.
I got the joke. I got the dark joke, though.
Yeah, come on, camera. Stop doing that thing where you get out of focus.
Yeah, apparently Allison Mack was complaining this week that she couldn't find work as an actor, and my first thought was, well, there's an actor strike going on for a start. I mean, that might be part of your problem, but...
I mean, she has been out of the loop.
Yeah, I feel like you might have to give up that career, right? You know what? Just be happy you're not in prison anymore, and...
It's the only thing she knows. She's been in, since she was a kid.
If that's not even the youngest I've seen her in something, she's in Police Academy 6, which you've also seen.
Yeah, because it stars the world's sexiest man, Garrett Graham.
Any women listening to this show, I want you to Google Garrett Graham and just see how absurd that statement was.
Don't put 2023 on it.
Yeah, you have to see him in the 70s and 80s. It has to be that era.
The curly haired one. I got an illustration of him up there.
Very good.
Got that commissioned.
Yeah. So that's basically all the stuff the kids are going through, except from the younger cousin getting sick at some point and needing some bananas, which Allison Mack's like, hey, he needs potassium, and then Adam's like, I know what's good potassium, bananas, and he...
Yeah, I think everybody knows this. It was a little bit confusing where they're like, he needs potassium. Find something with potassium. Like, okay, bananas. Like, everybody's got bananas.
I mean...
bananas. Like, everyone knows that bananas have potassium.
I mean, not only do I know bananas have potassium, I'm pretty sure it's the only thing I know that has potassium. I couldn't name you anything else. Oh, the potatoes have... Okay, fair enough. I did not know that.
Bananas and potatoes. And I'm pretty sure anyway. I don't mean to bring up the Navy twice in one review, but like I do remember in boot camp they were talking about like what are things that like bombs are made of, and everyone had to where people had to say
orange juice.
Like we could say water, I guess, like, oh, there's whatever kind of explosive materials are in them, and then someone said potassium, and all I could think of were banana bombs for like the rest of the night. Banana bombs, like, I guess it is an element that could be used for explosions, but
I was actually
banana bombs is just a really funny term.
It's not been that long since I watched it, so I was actually just referencing Fight Club of all things, because he mentions in that you can make explosives out of like orange juice and soap or something stupid like that. I don't know if that's true. Well, that could be made up. I don't know.
Did you like that movie when you watched it?
No, not really.
Yeah, it's too overdone.
Just not for me. I can appreciate there's a lot of skill in it. It's not like a lazy movie or anything. It's just not. Yeah. I talked about it for like 2 hours. You can go check it out.
All right, watch the review, everyone.
Yeah, the review's already out. You can go check it. Yeah. So the adults though, they're like, okay, what can we do?
If your kid has a potassium deficiency, as a parent, as a mother, who has to pay for medication for potassium. That banana is one of the cheapest things at the grocery store has potassium in it, right?
To be fair, she's not in the conversation. Like, they can't hear her, right? Maybe you could question that the big sister, Allison Mack, should know that fact already. That's fair enough. But the mum, like...
But the mum doesn't even bring it up.
True. But she's just... I think she's just panicking. Because the mums are small. Okay. They can't hear the mums.
I'll let it slide because it's a kid's movie. And I think this is also... Like, the kids have to play the scientist and have to, like, oh, we listen to our parents. Like, my dad, scientist, taught me that potassium is in bananas. That's a sweet lesson for kids in a science-y kind of way. But as an adult watching it, it's a little frustrating.
All right, so the adults, otherwise, though, their whole thing is they have to try and figure out a way to like get the kids' attention. So they have to get down from the attic, which they do on like a fishing reel, going down to Adam's window. And they go into Adam's room from there. There's a whole joke here where like Wayne's trying to think of a solution, and the joke is that Gordon's already noticed the fishing line, and Wayne's a bit of a dick actually, where he's like, "Hey, I'm
a scientist.
I'm the scientist here. I'll think of the solution." To the point when he finally says, "Hey, what about a fishing reel, Wayne?" And then he looks over, and both the wives are like, it's like the presenters on like a game show, and they're both like presenting it. I thought that was funny. Anywho, they get into Adam's room and there's a Hot Wheels track that starts up at the desk, and they're like, "Hey, this would get us somewhere." And so they sit in the Hot Wheels car and go flying.
Not before getting the little rubber bands for the braces.
Is that what they were for? I didn't even realize what they were for.
Yeah. I forgot what they're called. I never had braces, but like all my friends did. And so yeah, they have these little rubber bands. They're like super small, and you put them in the things.
Yeah, when they said strap in, I thought they were going to like put them around them and the seat so that they'd be like tied to the seat, but they don't. They just put them on themselves and sit in the seat, and I thought that's not going to keep you anywhere.
Not really. I guess it adds more volume so that like maybe I don't know. So it's a little bit of like a life preserve.
I mean, I guess maybe the thinking is that it's wedging you in as opposed to like strapping you in. But strapping seems better overall, though, I would say. But you know,
that would be more like a seatbelt.
Yes,
but it might be difficult to do on a Hot Wheels toy.
Anywho, they go down this track, and of course, because Adam's Hot Wheel track, there's a lot of like dangerous bits because he wanted it to be exciting. So there's like a truck that almost hits him at one point, and there's other things. It's all just what it is. But they end up flying off the end of the track and get into the laundry chute. So they end up in the laundry, and then quite quickly Adam and his cousin come down and pick up the laundry and take it back up to his bedroom. So they've actually achieved nothing. They're back to where they started. There is a gag here though where Adam pulls out a magazine and says, "Hey, my dad would kill me if he knew about this." And this sort of starts the part of the movie where the parents keep like witnessing their kids do something, and like they're reacting, "Oh, this is what they're doing when we're not around." And we don't see what the magazine is, but the obvious like
it's implied that it's
porn, right?
Pornography,
right? And like Wayne and Diane are like, "Oh, we're so sorry about this," and the other two are just sort of standing awkwardly. And the joke's really obvious because the whole movie he's been saying, "I want to go to baseball camp," but the dad wants to send him to science camp. So when they finally see what the magazine is, and it's like Sports Illustrated for kids, it's like, yeah, obvious that was going to be the joke. I'd actually respect them more if it just said Playboy. Not see any. Obviously, I don't expect to see anything, but just the Playboy logo at the top or something, just to be like, hey, they're looking at boobs. Boobs are great. I don't know.
I concur.
Anyway, they end up getting downstairs because the bubble machine's at the top of the stairs firing out bubbles, and Wayne decides that the physics work, that they can ride the bubbles down.
Even though bubbles pop in the air all the time.
So they jump in the bubbles and they split up. So the two men are going to the stereo system because Wayne knows how to reverse the speaker into a microphone to amplify their voice, which actually isn't complete bullshit. I mean, I'm not sure what he's doing is correct, but speakers can become crappy microphones if you quote unquote reverse the polarity.
Did you just pull a Star Trek?
I did just pull a Star Trek. The wives, on the other hand, are on their way to the kitchen because they're trying to... What were they trying to do? What was their goal?
Look for the pills?
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, it was to look for... Because they know the kid's starting to feel sick, so they're looking for the pills. Not that it's going to achieve anything immediately because they can't signal anyone, or because no one can see them or hear them, which is actually... This was a problem, I guess, kind of in the first one, but it's more of an issue here because there's multiple times where they're like in the same room as one of the kids and they're all yelling and the kids never notice them. But they mentioned at one point that they're about 3/4 of an inch tall, and that kind of tracks with some of the visuals that are next to it. And I thought, 3/4 of an inch, like, it's small, but like you would see it.
Yeah, you would see a bug that was that big and be like, ugh.
Exactly. I mean, 3/4 of an inch,
and maybe like swipe it away.
But that like.
It's like a Polly Pocket.
I feel like this movie really underestimates how much people are looking at the floor when they're walking around. Because you look at the floor to make sure you're not stepping in stuff or whatever. Yes. Especially if you got cats.
Although I do step in stuff.
But I tend to look down at the floor a lot, and I feel like movies like to ignore that fact. And maybe some people do always never look at the floor, but I don't know. I feel like it's actually really easy to do that all the time. So, but yeah, they go to that and they witness the whole kiss thing and they're commenting on that as it happens. There's also a scene where there's a daddy longlegs, which they end up saving from a spider's web.
Which coos.
Yes.
I mean, the aunt did also in the first movie. It made cooing noises. You're like, why are you being adorable?
Which is Diane getting over her.
Lisa doesn't get murdered by a scorpion, though.
That's true. That's true. Diane almost kills it earlier on in the movie, though, when she's big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that foreshadow coming.
Yeah. Did you think Wayne was asking to be murdered when they're climbing the wicker chair and he turns to Diane and says, "Hey, at least you're getting some exercise, honey"?
Yes. Like, that's not okay.
Like, phrasing is so important. Like, see if he'd said, "Hey, you've been saying you want to get some exercise. This kind of counts." Like, that phrasing, that works a bit better because it's like, oh, that's something she said, and he's saying, "Hey, this kind of counts," so you can feel better that you're doing this. But that's not how he phrases it. He just,
Nope.
he just hits out with that, and it's like,
hey, at least you get some exercise. Maybe you'll burn some of those fat reservoirs you got.
I'm a hotshot scientist. I had a young, skinny, hot wife, and you've not been filming.
He's like, "Hey, I've replaced you once."
There could be a third Diane. Oh, dear.
The ride has the original Diane, so that's canon. This one's not.
Good to know. The dads basically do the thing with the speaker. At this point, the other guys who are there are starting to act out and like ruin stuff and like knock books off shelves and mess around with stuff. And Adam tries to tell him to stop, and he gets all mean about it, and he's like, "What are you going to do, Pipsqueak? Your daddy's boy." And then when the speaker's turned into a mic, Gordon Zielinski starts talking, and they don't know where it's coming from, although you would be able to tell it's coming from the speaker because you listen to speakers all the time. You know what a speaker sounds like, but whatever.
You were just listening to music.
So he says he's God, and they get rid of them. I'm glad that the kids did actually knew the whole time this was their dad, because I would have called bullshit and not recognizing their dad's voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's basically they go find everyone, they put them in front of the shrink ray. The only notable thing here really is the kids for a second think, we don't have to make them big immediately. We could leave them shrunken for a while.
They're basically like, "Hey, we got this." Even our parents approved of how we ran the show while they were gone.
And all I could think was, okay, think about it, guys. They pay for everything. You kind of need the income that your parents
They don't know
provide.
about that yet.
I don't know. Like that $40 you already spent on all those snacks for the party. That's not going to last you very long. You're going to be hungry in 3 days. So, but yeah, once they, enlarge the parents, everyone hugs. Wayne gives his brother the CEO job of his company, and that's it. And then the final joke of the movie is after they've picked up Adam from baseball camp and they're driving him home, the Tiki statue has now been made big and it's in the backyard, so it's taller than the house. And I can't imagine why they did that or why Diane isn't strangling her husband, but it's a funny final shot, I guess.
It's also illegal.
It's also very, very illegal. Yeah. So I don't know what to make of that. It felt like a joke that didn't really make sense with everything else the movie did.
Plus, it was so ugly. I think they said he got it at it's not a real tiki. He got it at a miniature golf auction or something.
No,
it looks like it. It looks like it's just made of hollow plastic.
No, she said it belonged at miniature golf. She didn't say he got it from there. Although
okay, but it does look like that.
I mean, yeah, it looks like that. But that was the line. Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, I think Honey, I Blew Up the Kid is nowhere near as good as the first one, but it feels like a proper sequel, and it still feels like it's got the budget and the scope, has enough returning actors that it feels worthwhile.
Everyone feels like their character still, and it's cute and funny, and it's got a nice story between the mother and son.
This one feels like we have less money, we're doing more simple things with a lot of green screen, and a lot of the ideas and logic just feel really pared down to be simpler and cheaper. Even just as simple as oh no, this is about a couple of kids having some friends over and then some of them turn out to be dicks. It just all feels a little bit TV movie. Yeah. I guess.
Even the idea, they talk, the mothers talk to the daddy long leg who like agrees to carry them up a table, which is ridiculous because I mean, even in the first film, yeah, there's like a relationship or a bond that happens with the aunt, but they still use the Oreo and stuff to like to lure it, the cookie.
It's more like a horse or a donkey in the first movie, where you still have to treat it. It's like there's a bond forming, but you still have to direct it in a way. No,
this is like the whale in the Avatar sequel, where we just talk to each other and they understand. Yeah, we're both mothers.
That's it. I have nothing else. It's just not, I don't think it's like ultra painful. I just think it's just
it is short.
It's short. It just like it's nice to see Rick Moranis be Wayne, I guess, because he is still him. He's the one authentic thing in this movie. It's still him. You can't deny that. But
yeah, I'm gonna have to watch something else with him in it tonight. I think, just so I love him again.
But sadly, everything else just feels too pared down. It feels smaller in scope, and yeah, so doesn't have the great neighbor characters the original. Doesn't have the witty jokes.
No.
There's so much setup and payoff in that first movie that's really slick that this just does not have. So, because it would be one thing if it was okay, it's much cheaper, but the writing still is good. Like that would be an interesting like result, because it'd be like, okay, this is still actually quite good. It's just not as impressive visually. That would be a very interesting thing to have to talk about, because it'd be very conflicting. But as it is, it's just kind of like, nah, it's pretty mediocre in every way. So it's easy to just kind of write it off and tell everyone not to bother, unless you're just such a huge Honey, I Shrunk the Kids fan that you have to consume every minute that's ever existed of any of its content.
I mean, there was a show, right?
There was a TV show. Yeah. I've watched a good bit of the TV. Well, I watched a good bit of the TV show back then. Like I don't remember it that well. I remember the mum being kind of hot, and I remember.
Brought that up before.
I remember there being like different inventions every episode. Like
she's stacked, isn't she? That's what's going on. I'm gonna look it up.
She might have been. I mean, I don't remember specifically, but she may have been stacked.
You have a type.
What do you mean I've got a type? Big boobed ladies aren't my type.
You don't often say like, "Oh, she's hot," except when there's a.
That's not true. There's plenty of petite women that I find very attractive. This is nonsense.
I'm still verifying. You keep talking.
We're done though. Like, how much stalling of it? Like, rate the movie, Tara. We're at that point.
It's a kids movie, so I think I am going to give some kind of forgiveness here. But I don't really like the film very much, and I know that the sequel was already a step down, but I think this one just feels like it's a little bit sad to watch because Diane's not there, and and yeah, it's just I don't know if cash grab is the right terminology at this point, maybe, but it just feels sad, and I don't like it. So, but maybe if I was a kid and I watched it, I would have enjoyed it. So I think I'll give it a forgiving 4.
Forgiving 4.
Yeah.
I guess the best way to describe it would be to say that it's kind of like what Disney are doing now with bringing Hocus Pocus back to sell Disney Plus. This was them using one of their properties from the start of the decade to sell the Disney Channel. And what's funny is that when I did this Santa Claus last year, there's a line in there talking about the Disney Channel, and it felt really kind of like, oh, you're like promoting your new channel and your new big movie. I think that's the vibe I get from this. This is them milking something while they still could, and
Speaking of milking. She is very cute. She looks like she's kind of got like a Christy Brinkley thing going on.
I don't know who that is, but I'll take your word for it. Anyway, so yes, that's I mean, what am I rating? I suppose 4. Yeah, 4 seems about right to me. I'll agree with the 4.
Okay, we're in agreement.
All right, there you go. That's Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, and
we did it.
we've done another franchise that needs to be crossed off. Next time, I believe we're doing Return of the Jedi. We're crossing off the original Star Wars trilogy. Obviously, Tara won't be the one sticking around to do all the other movies. David gets that pleasure.
Well, let's hope he's seen the original 3 before he goes into the prequels.
I think he's at least seen the original Star Wars movies. And if he hasn't, because I'll just reveal now, David, there's going to be a little segment at the end of the show where David most weeks is going to try and also watch a movie that we've already done in the show to build up his knowledge of just sci-fi in general.
What? Just tell him to watch their reviews.
No, that doesn't count. The point is that eventually when we do countdowns and stuff, he actually has a nice, breadth of things. So
we've done a lot.
That's right. And he's got access to all of our ratings, so he can target the good ones if he wants to.
Oh yeah, send me those ratings.
Yeah, you've got a top 50.
And also do the bonus ones because I like those.
They're in the database.
Excellent. I need that spreadsheet.
You ain't getting jack shit. You have to do it from memory.
Come on.
All right.
I gave you like a 4 months notice here.
That's the show, everyone. That's the Atomic Cinema Experiment. You can support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. I won't bother promoting bonus A stuff because that's kind of coming to an end with Tara leaving. But there are bonus monthly shows that are worth checking out. There's Extra Reels, which is a bonus show that I do with David, where we do some of the worst movies of all time. There's the opposite of that, the Criterion Cut, where we do movies from the Criterion Collection. And then me and Tim do a bonus Screams After Midnight on there every month, where we do like a really goofy B movie from the horror genre. So there's also a video game podcast that I do with Connor monthly. There's a lot of bonus content over on Patreon. Whoa. So if that all sounds good,
I'd buy that for $1 times 3.
$3 or $5 depending on what shows we're talking about. Different tiers, but yes, there we go. That's the show.
Hey, I saved RoboCop for David. You're welcome.
You did. You also did all the Transformers movies, so he wouldn't have to. So
there's going to be sequels.
There is going to be sequels, but I think he is grateful. He was grateful that Ghosts of Mars get taken off the table.
Yeah, because that was high priority.
It was high manure.
Oh.
No?
Nailed it. First try. Way to go.
Don't patronize me. Right?
It was a great joke.
Don't be...
Look how much I'm smiling.
Don't be Diane Zelinsky and tell me to get rid of my Tiki statue, okay?
Or you'll recast me?
Or I'll recast you. So that's the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you very much for joining us. You can like, subscribe. Those things help out a lot. They help people find the show and the channel. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes if you listen to the podcast version. But regardless, any and all help is appreciated. But thank you very much once again for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction and computer ad salsa.